Hi everybody. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to show you. Hold up. Weird. There we go. Okay, sorry. Today we're going to start day 3 of our function notes. And today what we're basically focusing on is linear functions. Okay? I'm going to be very honest. Linear functions are a little bit hard to understand in Math 8, only because you don't get the full detail. So I'm going to try to explain it with the full detail. Most of the stuff I'm talking about, though, you probably don't need to know. So you just need to know the stuff on the notes. But let's go ahead and get going on it, and we'll just try our best, okay? So, example 1, this is stuff that you guys already know. We're going to make a table for each function, then identify the range for each function. So the table's already made for us, yay. This equation right here, where it's got two variables, the x and y, this is our function, okay? And they told us domain was 0, 1, 2, and 3. So when they tell us domain, those are the x values. So I plugged them in for the x. So to find your y values, what you're doing is you're taking these x values that they gave you and plugging them in for the x in the equation. Okay? So we're just doing substitution. So 5 times 0 is going to give us 0, which means that means y equals 0. So when x is 0, y is also 0. Let's do the next one. 5 times 1 equals 5, so the y is 5. 5 times 2 is 10, so the y is 10. 5 times 3 is 15, so that's our y, which means that these numbers create our range. Okay, so to write them out, we just go ahead and put them in those braces I told you about. And I just did it from order from least to greatest, so 0, 5, 10, and 15. So what these equations, which we call functions, do is it's basically a rule that we follow. Like, if you have an x or an input, if you put this into the equation, you can find what comes out, your y value. Okay? So now we're going to do b. Same deal. This was our domain, so these are the x's. I'm plugging in all these x's for this x here. Now this x, even though it says negative, that negative does not apply to these numbers. So when we plug in something for x, we are just replacing that letter x, none of the symbols or anything. We're just replacing that letter with it. That's why we have to use parentheses. So when I plug in, it looks like this. Negative whatever x is, which is 11 here, plus 2, equals negative 9. So I had negative 11 plus 2 equals negative 9. So that's my y value, is negative 9. I plug in 15, it becomes negative 15 plus 2, which equals negative 13. Plug in 22, negative 22 plus 2 equals negative 20. Plug in 27, I get negative 25. So again, these are my y values, so this is my range. Okay, and I just write it out, and for some reason I did this from greatest to least. Okay, so yes, the order does matter, but I'm not too particular about it. So you guys are going to try this one on your own. A nice easy equation or function. Okay, and then I asked you a couple of other questions. What would happen if you connect these ordered pairs that you get? Like, you plot the ordered pairs on the graph, and what would happen when you connect them? Would it create a relation, or is it a function? Okay, so try that one on your own now, and pause the video, and then when we come back, we can talk about what happened. Okay, so when you connect these points, it actually creates a perfect line, right? Maybe your line wasn't perfect because you didn't use a ruler, and I have rulers in the classroom, but it creates a line. And this line is a relation because it's a bunch of ordered pairs, but it's also a function because if you do the vertical line test, none of your points actually double up at all. Okay? So, oh, look, when we connect the points, it makes a line. Wait a second. Linear and line sound the same. So the graph of a line is a linear function. So all lines are functions. Linear actually means line. Okay? So if you hear linear, it means it creates a line. Okay? And now on to the next page. So example 2 is very similar, except they give you the range, so they gave you the y values, and you have to find the domain, the x values. Okay, so when we're done, we're also going to plot our points. So what we're doing now is we're taking the y values that we get, we're plugging them in for the y here. So I have -9 equals 1/2 x minus 8. I add 8 to both sides, so I'm just solving the equation. Add 8 to both sides, I get -1 equals 1/2 x. To get x by itself, I multiply both sides by 2, so I get x equals -2. So that's one part of my domain. Do the same thing for all of them. 8 equals -1/2 x minus 8. I add 8 to both sides, I get 0. 0 equals 1/2 x. I multiply both sides by 2 to undo that 1/2. I get x equals 0. -7 equals 1/2 x minus 8. I add 8 to both sides. I get 1 equals 1/2 x. I multiply both sides by 2. X equals 2. The last one, -6 equals 1/2 x minus 8. I add 8 to both sides. I get 2 equals 1/2 x. Multiply everything by 2. I get x equals 4. So that's my domain, and I write that down here. So these are my ordered pairs. -2 when x is -2 and y is 9. Okay, plot my point. 0 when x is 0 and y is -8, so that's right here. When x is 2 and y is -7, and when x is 4 and y is -6. Okay, and if I draw an arrow, I draw a line so it's got arrows on both ends, that's my graph of this equation. Okay? So you guys are going to try these two on your own. And don't forget to graph your ordered pairs. Okay? So if you have any questions on this, we can answer it when you get back. And I will see you next class.